The silence in the Widmore mansion was heavy, the kind that pressed against the walls and echoed faintly with the tick of an antique clock in the far corner of the study. Leonard Widmore stood in front of the large mahogany desk, his fingers drumming anxiously against the polished surface. The safe beside the bookshelf loomed like a test of morality, its heavy steel door deliberately left slightly ajar. Inside, under the warm glow of a desk lamp, bundles of crisp $100 bills sat stacked neatly, alongside a velvet pouch that concealed diamond cufflinks and other precious heirlooms. To anyone else, it would look like fortune carelessly exposed. But for Leonard, it was bait, carefully positioned temptation meant to draw out the truth. He hated himself for it. The idea of setting a trap for someone who had worked faithfully under his roof for years left a bitter taste in his mouth. And yet, doubts had gnawed at him endlessly. A missing bracelet here, a watch misplaced there, a few bills gone from his drawer. These were small things, but enough to seed suspicion in a man who had built his empire on control and vigilance. The wealthy learned long ago to trust sparingly, and Leonard was no exception. Still, a voice in the back of his mind whispered that perhaps he was making a grave mistake. Clara had always been polite, her presence soft and steady, never once raising her voice or demanding more than her due wages. But suspicion is a poison, it does not need proof to corrode trust, only repetition. He dimmed the lights and slipped into the adjoining library, its sliding glass doors giving him just the right vantage point to see into the study. Hidden in shadow, he positioned himself carefully, his heart pounding faster than he expected. He was a man used to boardroom battles, hostile takeovers, and negotiations worth millions, yet in this moment, he felt oddly nervous. His breathing slowed as he heard footsteps echo faintly down the marble hallway. Clara entered with her usual quiet grace, her posture straight, her uniform freshly pressed despite the long hours of the day. She carried a tray with his evening tea, the porcelain cup trembling slightly from the faintest shake in her hand. She always tried to appear composed, but Leonard noticed she carried an air of fatigue, as though life itself demanded more of her than she could give. Setting the tray gently on the desk, she adjusted the spoon beside the saucer and brushed a loose strand of hair back into her bun. Then she saw it, the safe. Her body stilled, eyes widening as the faint light glinted off the metallic edges and the stacks of cash inside. The room seemed to hold its breath with her. Leonard leaned forward slightly, his pulse quickening. This was the moment. He expected hesitation, then perhaps curiosity, and finally, the hand reaching forward. But what followed shook him more than he could have imagined. Clara didn't lunge forward, she didn't even take a step. Instead, she froze where she stood, her chest rising and falling more quickly now. A storm passed across her face, fear, longing, shame, and finally, restraint. Her lips trembled as if she were speaking silently to herself. Slowly, almost painfully, she approached the safe. Her fingers hovered near the door, but they didn't touch the contents. Instead, she pressed her palms together tightly, as though restraining herself from reaching in. And then, to Leonard's astonishment, she sank to her knees before the open safe. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice cracking, "please, give me strength not to think like a thief. I promised my mother I would never let hunger make me steal. Not now, not ever." Her words, though soft, pierced the stillness of the room like a cry. Leonard's throat tightened as he watched. She wasn't aware of his presence, wasn't performing for an audience. These words came from somewhere raw and unguarded, and that made them cut even deeper. Her shoulders shook as she brushed away tears, standing once more with visible effort. She looked at the wealth inside one last time and whispered, almost to herself, "Not mine, it will never be mine." With gentle care, she pushed the heavy door of the safe until it clicked shut. She lingered for a moment, her hand resting against the steel, before retreating. Leonard's heart ached as she picked up the tray of tea she had originally brought in, untouched and now slightly cooled. Her head was bowed, her steps slow, as if the struggle inside her had drained what little strength she had left. She left the study as quietly as she had entered, leaving behind not just the untouched money, but also the echo of words that would haunt Leonard far longer than any theft could have. "Would you like me to now expand scene 2 in the same 700-word style to match this one?" Leonard remained in the dimly lit library long after Clara's footsteps faded down the hallway. He was rooted to the spot, unable to move, his mind replaying the scene he had just witnessed over and over. The millionaire who thought himself clever for laying a trap now felt like a villain in his own story. The weight of shame pressed against his chest, heavier than any fortune he had ever carried. He had expected to catch her red-handed, to confirm his suspicions, to protect his wealth. Instead, he had seen a woman fight a battle most would lose, and win, not for applause, not for reward, but for her own dignity. At last, he forced himself out of the shadows. His polished shoes clicked against the marble as he followed the faint sounds of running water down to the kitchen. The usually sterile and bright space felt almost sacred in that moment. Clara was there, standing at the sink with her sleeves rolled up, scrubbing a large pot that gleamed under the overhead light. She worked with quiet focus, her movements efficient but weary. The faint redness around her eyes betrayed the tears she had shed only moments ago, though she tried to mask them with a tired smile when she noticed him. "Sir, your tea, I left it in the study. I'll bring a fresh one," she said softly, already reaching for the kettle. Leonard raised a hand, his voice strained. "No, Clara, please, don't." She froze, puzzled, her brows knitting together. He stepped further into the kitchen, each word he spoke sounding like it had to fight its way past the lump in his throat. "Why didn't you take it?" The question lingered in the air, raw and heavy. Clara's hands stilled in the soapy water, her back slightly hunched as if the weight of her life pressed down on her. She turned slowly, her eyes searching his face to understand what he meant. Her lips parted, but for a long moment, no sound came out. Finally, she whispered, "Because it wasn't mine, sir. My family may be poor, but my mother taught me something I can't forget. She said, if you steal, your hands will always remember the shame, no matter how much you wash them." Her voice shook, but her gaze was steady. "I couldn't live with that curse. Not even for a full belly, not even for my brother's medicine." Leonard's heart nearly broke at her words. He felt a sting behind his eyes, and he blinked hard, but the tears fell anyway. The truth was laid bare. While he sat in his mansion doubting her, she carried burdens heavier than he could imagine, and still she chose integrity over survival. With trembling hands, he pulled the key to the safe from his pocket and set it on the kitchen counter. "Clara, I need you to know something." His voice cracked, forcing him to pause. "I left the safe open on purpose. I thought if you were tempted, I would know the truth. I wanted proof before I trusted you." He swallowed hard, his shame too big to contain. "And instead, you've shown me what real trust looks like. You've shown me what it means to be strong, even when no one is watching." Her breath caught, her face a mixture of shock and disbelief. You tested me," she whispered, almost too softly to hear. "Yes," Leonard admitted, his head bowing. "And I regret it more than I can say. Forgive me." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Clara's eyes glistened, but she nodded slowly, her humility shining even now. "There's nothing to forgive, sir. You gave me work when I needed it most. I only wanted to honor that." Leonard shook his head. "No, Clara, you gave me something I didn't deserve, your loyalty, your honesty, your strength. And I doubted you." He reached for his wallet, but then stopped. Money felt too small, too shallow compared to the lesson she had just taught him. Instead, he took a deep breath and said, "From this day forward, things will change. Your brother's schooling, your mother's medicine, they will be my responsibility. You'll never have to fight this battle alone again." Her hand flew to her mouth, her body trembling with disbelief. "Sir, you can't." "I can," Leonard interrupted gently, tears streaming freely now. "And I will. Not because I pity you, Clara, but because you've earned more respect than any partner I've done business with. Tonight, you reminded me what true wealth is, and it's not sitting in that safe. It's in the courage of someone who chooses honesty even when no one is looking." Clara's tears spilled then, but they were different from the ones in the study. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of release from a burden she had carried too long. Leonard, too, wept openly, no longer ashamed of his vulnerability. For the first time in years, his fortune didn't feel like chains to guard, it felt like a tool he could finally use to make something right. That night, the mansion was no longer silent in the same way. It was filled with the quiet sound of hearts changing, one humbled, the other uplifted. Leonard Whitmore realized he was richer than ever, not because of the safe behind the study door, but because of the woman standing in his kitchen with tear-stained cheeks and a soul unshaken by temptation. Do you want me to also craft image prompts for both expanded scenes so you can visualize them better?